Jai Hind Desh. Today, we are here at the concluding session of our Kargil War series special Vartala. At the very beginning, I want to wish Dr. Ranjana Malik Ma'am, all our serving soldiers, veterans, and beloved members of Desh on Kargil Vijay Diwas. These 2 months, you have heard many stories of our Vartala. Few were lucky enough to tell their story themselves, and few we heard from their family and loved ones. But very often, we either don't acknowledge or ignore the contribution of the families of our soldiers. The sufferings of the families of our soldiers who fought the war were no less. The sacrifices of the families were no less. So today, we will honor the family of our soldiers, the real army behind our army, on our 23rd Kargil Vijay Diwas Vartalap. And who can be better to give us give us information about the contribution of the families other than Dr. Ranjana Malik Ma'am, who was the then AWWA president. Anushwa? Yes.
Jai Hind, ma'am, and Jai Hind to every member of Team Desh. Ma'am, I would just like to tell you that we are today here to listen to your experience, or we want to see the Kargil War through your eyes. Because as a wife of the chief, and not only as a wife of the chief, you were a serving doctor also, and as the president of AWWA. I mean, we want to see the war through your eyes, through your experience.
Yes, certainly. So, do you want me to begin?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Jai Hind. My grateful thanks to Team Desh for having asked me to speak to all of you today on this memorable day, which is the Vijay Diwas, and we are here to commemorate the 23rd victory day of our country. Our homage to all our brave hearts. Before I begin, I want to thank all of you from Team Desh who have involved yourselves so actively with family members of our soldiers, giving them emotional support at every moment. And it has been a very personal involvement from what I can see. And I want to convey my grateful thanks to all of you. This has been invaluable. As I begin to tell you about AWWA, let me tell you that AWWA, the Army Wives Welfare Association, started in the year 1963 after the Indo-China War in 62. Till then, there was nothing. And this was just a beginning. And now, 50 years down the line, I think AWWA has evolved and changed and become bigger and better and fully involved in doing things for all the families of our 1.4 million strong army. You know, and so the role of AWWA is not known by many people. The role of AWWA is crucial. It is the largest NGO in the country, and yet most people don't know anything about it. And yet, at the time of Kargil War, when we were involved, I involved so deeply in the war and in our efforts to help everyone, our efforts were appreciated the world over. They were observed the world over, and we got very many complimentary messages from people around the world. And yet, in our country, people didn't know. They just saying, what were you doing? What were you doing? Are you only giving support to General Malik? Was he worried when he came home? So I want to tell you that we organize ourselves, and we had teams all along. so that at times of a crisis, you can get going. You must remember that in one day, you cannot start any effort. At a time when there's a crisis, when time is of essence and everything, so you have to get things going at a much faster pace. So, right from the time that I took over as the president AWWA, which was early in 97, we had organized our ladies because we felt that this work has to be a non stop work in looking after the welfare of our families. So, when the war broke out, we had to really step up the work that we were doing. And the most important thing that started was the arrival. And now I'm wanting to tell you briefly exactly what happened during Kargil War, because that is the time we were so deeply involved, and that is the time the time that people need to know. When the war started, what happened first? The wounded soldiers, they started arriving at our hospitals. They came in blood splattered clothes. They came coated with blood. They came without clothes. They came with absolutely uh, broken hands, no legs, big abdominal wounds, eyes with splinters in them. And they arrived over there. Mind you, there was no family in these hospitals waiting for them. So it is while the doctors took on the job of looking after these soldiers with real responsibility and dignity, and they worked so hard to save our soldiers, it is our ladies who went around from patient to patient helping them, because don't forget they had no clothes. We got them kurtas, we got them pajamas, we got them toiletries, we got them shaving kits, we got them so. And when I went around the hospitals, you ask somebody, it is so heartening. You ask somebody, "Beta, kaise ho?" So he would say, he's got his arms, he's lost his arms, he's lost, but he will say, मैम बिल्कुल ठीक है, वापस जाना है, बॉर्डर पे जाना है, बिकॉज हमारे कैप्टन साहब वहां रह गए, हमको वहां पे जाना. So that spirit of the soldier will never go, no matter how hard. So we looked after them. We went from person to person to find out how they were. I remember there was one young Naga boy, barely 19 years old. He had lost both arms. So, and he could not speak the language. So I got hold of two girls, Naga girls, who were working in one of our beauty parlors, and I brought them in the car. I said, just speak to this boy, just give him some reassurance. And it was so important to go around reassuring these people, because their question was, they would say, Sab theek hai. But their question was, ki, what will happen to us after this? Will we be in the army? Will we be out of the army? So you have to reassure them that as long as once they got all right, they will continue to be in the army, and the rest might have to be boarded out. You can understand those were days when there were no cell phones. There were no cell phones. How did those soldiers get in touch with their families? We had no phones at all. And I would request some civilian friends to come to the hospital in the evening with their cell phones, and we would try and get a connection to the soldiers' family so that they can meet the families. One role we did looking after the wounded soldiers. And let me tell you, the politicians tried their level best to come in because they wanted their pictures taken with the soldiers, which my husband did not allow. He says, this is not the time for these sort of pictures. The second very difficult thing that happened was when the dead bodies arrived. When the bodies arrived in bags, and these women who were there at the airports when the special aircrafts arrived, our ladies, our volunteers were there with the family members to give them a helping hand, to put an arm around their shoulder, to tell them that we are there for you. Somebody had to be there with them. So this was a very important task that we did day in and day out when the bodies were arriving. Because later, family members would arrive. But at the initial moment when the bodies arrived, there was nobody. There was another very important thing. We had always teams of people going to the field area families, going to the quarters where the officers' wives lived, where the soldiers' wives lived, because these were the people who were having so much of anxiety and apprehensions. Their husbands were fighting a battle out there, a grim battle. They were hearing about it. We needed to be with them day and night. I visited them all the time. I visited the officers' quarters. I visited the wars quarters to try and get them information. Somebody wanted to ask what was happening. So we would get in touch with Northern Command, and we got some information from there. We helped them. We conveyed that information to them. There were children who were looked after. Our ladies were helping out with the children's studies, taking them out for little outings, because the mothers were in no position to look after the children at that time, because this was a televised war and the war scenes were coming right to their homes, you know. And as I used to go around the hospitals, I used to give them all one card, an Asha card, which is published in our AWWA offices, and which we had handwritten in our hands and signed personally by me, wishing them well, wishing them best speedy recovery, and I would give these cards to these people. And once I visited various hospitals in Udhampur, we went to J&K, we went to, but once I was in Bareilly and I saw one wounded soldier there. So I asked him, I said, आपको तो मैं मिली हूँ पहले, आप तो दिल्ली के हॉस्पिटल में थे. कहते हाँ जी. तो मैंने कहा आपको मैंने ऐसा कार्ड दिया था. So he said हाँ जी. I said वो कार्ड कहाँ है? कहते जी अभी वो मेरे घर में शीशे में लगा के रखा है. So you don't realize that one little meeting with these people has so much of meaning for them. Every little personal interaction with them conveys so much. Then the most important thing was meeting the next of kin of those who were martyred, the soldiers who were martyred in their lives. My husband and I made an attempt to go to each home, and otherwise with other ladies, the AG's wife, the vice chief's wife, we would go to their homes, the soldiers' homes, talk to them. And I found that they were, absolutely the death of a family member. Some of these young girls were barely married. 5 months ago, they had never even lived with those husbands. And I found that the relatives used to be, peeping from the doors, trying to find out what I'm going to tell them about the compensation that they will get. So I found it sometimes easier to get these ladies to my office, send them a car, bring them to the office, and explain to them that this is what will happen. And if you can pursue your studies, At this stage, I must tell you that we were very lucky to have a prime minister like Mr. Bajpai. Whatever we conveyed to him, he agreed. Whether it was in terms of compensation, whether the AG passed those figures to them, and whether it was my talking to him about the wounded soldiers, about getting the best of artificial limbs, best in times of motorized wheelchairs. I must say the Prime Minister agreed each time. We were very fortunate to have a person like him around. Then and this contact with the martyrs' families, I think we have maintained from then till now. Even now, I'm in touch with so many of them. And whichever station we go to when we travel, not then, now it's 23 years down the line, wherever we go, with Meghalaya, whether it is Nagaland, whether it was Chennai, whether it is Palampur, we make it a point to meet these families. Because what is more important is the family to remember that their sons, next of kin's sacrifice has not gone in vain, that the country remembers what he has done. This is very important. People think of ho gaya, paise de diye, sab kuch khatam ho. But ye nahi hota. You have to make them feel that their husband's sacrifice has not gone in vain. And the very important thing that was done during this war was that instead of the bodies being cremated at the spot, the bodies were sent all the way to their states, to their hometowns. And in those hometowns, those parents and those families, they were really put on a pedestal, because for the cremation, people came out in lakhs. People came out in lakhs to be there. So the families, even now, they feel that they are remembered by the local authorities. I, in my office, I was always available. There were hundreds of people who came to visit me each day to convey that they wanted to give something, donate something, which all that went to the Army Central Welfare Fund. But they wanted to come and meet and to ask questions and to say what they wanted to do. There was a young girl, 18-year-old girl. She came and she said, "Ma'am, it was my 18th birthday, but I told my parents that we will not have a party. All this money will go to the Central Welfare Fund." My husband has always relates a particular incident. And one young widow who had lost her husband some time ago, she had two little children. And on behalf of those children, she sent two 1 rupee notes in a letter. She said, "This is out of their pocket money. And I want the children to realize the value of giving something out of their pocket money for the soldiers who are guarding our country." So, and she said, she told my husband, she said, "Sir, just send you please send these rupee 2 rupee note, two 1 rupee notes to the border, and tell somebody to write back and say that the money has been received." There's these little gestures which touch you so much. I was called to various residential colonies where I spoke to the people all the time. I was called by the president's wife, Mrs. Narayanan, to go and give her a brief about what we were doing. I went with the Army chief's wife, Air Force chief's wife, Naval chief's wife. We went and spoke over there. I attended a big meeting which was organized by the vice chief's wife. She had called at least heads of about 30 or 40 organizations, women's organizations, and she wanted me to tell them what we were doing, because people could not understand that we were doing enough. You know, in fact, I must tell you, one of the biggest compliments came to me from Mrs. V.V. Giri, the daughter-in-law of the previous president, Mr. Giri, and she had actively involved herself with looking after the army widows during the 65 war and 71 war. So when she came to me, she says, "Mrs. Malik, you can't understand how happy I am to see the way you're functioning, because earlier I felt that people were not doing anything. Now I feel that you're doing the best that you can do." I spoke on TV programs. I spoke with Barkha Dutt and Srinivasan Jain. I spoke on All India Radio. I spoke on a Z TV program called Vijay Jyoti. And I spoke on there was a rediff chat show at Moray Hotel, because none of us had so many computers at that time. So where I was getting questions from all over the world, and I was answering those and telling these people that this is what we are doing. So I think because this was a televised war, more people realized and more people were inquisitive to see what was happening. So I feel that we did a great job. I must tell you a particular incident. Once it came out in the news that one particular regimental medical officer of a particular battalion had been injured and he was admitted in hospital. Now his sister was in Singapore somewhere. When she heard this news, she was paranoid. She sent an email message to Army headquarters and she asked, "How can I find out about my brother?" So we sent that message to her brother in the military hospital, 92 base hospital in Srinagar. So that gentleman, Dr. Basu, Major Basu he was, I think, he said, "It is my sister's birthday today. Please convey my birthday greetings to her." So these are little things, which add to your thing. But it was a grueling time. It was a difficult time. And I give full praise to all my teams of volunteers who went out of their way to do what they could at every single stage. Let me see what I have not told you about. So my purpose is that even today I ring up I write to people. If I hear about a casualty, I will make it a point to find out the address, the telephone number, write a personal note. I wrote letters and cards to every single commanding officer and every single Subedar major whose unit was posted in the battlefield areas. And after some time, I told the ladies that let us send some sweets, some mithai to our soldiers who are fighting such a bitter battle. So we chose some very nutritious, long-lasting, non-perishable mithais. And I told the ladies, I said, just don't get it back like this. Put a little card in that and let that card be handwritten, addressed. Put a little flower, put a little something. Tell them that we are thinking of them. So let the soldiers not feel that impersonally somebody has sent. So we sent almost 5,000 packets of sweets every week through the Air Force planes. And when these things reached there, when they reached the borders, you can imagine, I started getting replies. I started getting letters. Officers also wrote, a few officers wrote, and some Jawans wrote. And those letters are so interesting. Firstly, they did not know what is AWWA. We sent letters saying AWWA ki or se aapko shubhkamnaएं. They did not know what is AWWA. Young boy, 19 years old, 20 years old, he's just come out of his regimental center and he's gone to battle. So they got letters, and I will read out one or two of these letters to tell you how interesting these were. So if I may read, this is their forces letters which used to come, and Gold Market, written to Bangla Sahib Road, Gold Market, because he doesn't know what is AWWA. So the soldier writes, आदरणीय माय डियर आवा, आपके प्रिय साथियों को सैनिक भाइयों की तरफ से नमस्कार। हम भारत माता की चुम्बी पर राजी खुशी से रहते हुए ईश्वर से आपके खुश रहने की कामनाएं करते हैं। हम यहाँ पर देश की रक्षा कर रहे हैं। हमें आपकी भेजी हुई आवा की मिठाई मिली। हमने और हमारे सैनिक भाइयों ने आवा की मिठाई खाई। मिठाई खाकर हमें काफी जोश आता है। आप इसी तरह मिठाई भेजते रहो तो हम लाहौर तो क्या इस्लामाबाद पहुंच जाएंगे। आप लोग निर्भर होकर रहो, हम आपके व अपने देश की रक्षा करेंगे। Now can you imagine the feelings of a young soldier who's sitting out there at the mountain top and he is assuring us कि हम आपकी रक्षा कर रहे हैं, है ना। और जब तक एलसी लाइन क्रॉस नहीं करते तब तक हम चैन की सांस नहीं ले पाएंगे। हम उनको ऐसी सीख सिखलाएंगे कि उनको सपने में भी याद आएगी कि इंडिया व इंडियन आर्मी कुछ है। भाई व बहनों, तुम खुश रहो। हमारी तरफ से हम तुम्हारे खुश रहने की कामना करते हैं। आपको पत्र मिलता है तो पत्र में पूरा एड्रेस देना, पत्र जल्दी देना। आपका सैनिक सुनील। Now this was Sunil Sharma from 6 paras. I was very pleased. I used to tell my husband, I said, these are your ACRs. Because if a soldier can write write with such confidence, this shows that everything is going well. There's one more letter I'll read out to you. It says, respected AWWA member, हम सभी अपनी जगह पर ठीक रहते हुए आपको ठीक रहने की कामना करते हैं। अब नेक्स्ट न्यूज़ इस प्रकार की है कि मैं 21 पैरा स्पेशल फोर्सेस का एक जवान हूं, अभी कारगिल में हूं। जब हम कारगिल की पहाड़ियां चढ़ रहे थे तो अचानक हमको आपका दिया हुआ गिफ्ट मिला, तो मुझे इतनी खुशी हुई कि मानो जैसे मेरे घर से मिठाई का पैक आया हो। मैंने वे पैक खोलकर देखा तो उसमें मिठाई निकली। जबकि हम पहाड़ियां चढ़ते चढ़ते थक गए थे, चूर हो गए थे, लेकिन जब वो मिठाई खाई तो हमें फिर से जोश की एक उमंग जाग गई और हमने फिर बर्फीली पहाड़ियां पर चढ़ना शुरू कर दिया और अपने काम में विजय पाई। मैं आपका इस गिफ्ट के लिए सदा आभारी रहूंगा कि हमें भी याद करने वाले कोई हैं, और अगर हमें इसी तरह याद करते रहोगे तो हम किसी भी कठिन से कठिन कार्य करने में सफल हो जाएंगे। फिर हमारे आगे पाकिस्तान तो क्या, चीन है। बाकी कार्यरत कर्मचारियों को हमारी तरफ से नमस्ते। हम आपका ये एहसान कभी नहीं भूलेंगे। आप लेटर का आंसर अति शीघ्र दें. आपके लेटर की इंतजार में आपका अपना सैनिक राजेश. Now, I wrote back to these boys. There were some more letters also. And I wrote back to these boys now on my stamped writing pad, President AWWA के writing pad में, और हिंदी में मैंने लिखा. I said कि मैं आपको पत्र इसलिए लिख रही हूँ कि आपको पता चले कि AWWA का मतलब सैनिक परिवार कल्याण संस्था है, और आप को हम आपके कार्य में हम आपको शुभकामनाएं भेज रहे हैं, और हम चाहते हैं कि आप अपने कार्य में सफल हो. देन आई साइन दैट लेटर्स. उसके बाद एक जवान मुझे लिखता है, कहता, मैम आपने जो चिट्ठी मुझे भेजी वो मेरे यूनिट के नोटिस बोर्ड पर लगा दी उन्होंने. अब आप चिट्ठी खुद मेरे को खुद भेज दो. So these were the very interesting things. And of course, it was a pain. The days were full of pain in the morning when my husband got up and got the news of how many casualties there were. It was a big, very sad moment for all of us. And the fact that so many people died, that was tragic. But then we won a victory which was really against all odds. Or I really would like to even thank all my members, all my volunteers who worked with such dedication to reach out to every single soldier, every single family, every single martyr's family. Mind you, very few of the soldiers who died were married during this war. The age profile in this war was different to those that happened in 62 or 65 or 71. Here they were very young soldiers. And because they were young, they did well because they climbed up those mountain tops with alacrity. So fitness was a big thing. There were few, but parents to the parents reh gaye, So one has memories. I like to tell people that we did this because most people, even in the army, a lot of people don't realize. So even when I went around, even now I tell them that when you go home on leave or you meet somebody who's lost a loved one, reach out to that person. It's not only for the government or for the chief's wife or somebody or people like you who are doing selfless job in reaching out to everyone. But I tell even our जवान्स wives कि आप घर छुट्टी जाते हैं, गांव में जाते हैं, you meet somebody who needs help, reach out, because it is something that we all need to do together. और हर एक चीज में पर्सनल इन्वॉल्वमेंट तो होना बहुत जरूरी है. You cannot look at somebody else to do something. You have to do it yourself. And I must commend all of you for what you're doing, for such a long time you're doing. And I keep hearing everything that you're concerned with. And my compliments to all of you. And God bless you.
Ma'am, here I must admit that actually you have been our inspiration and path. You have shown us the path. We are just following it, ma'am.
Yeah, I think as I said, I'm a Fauji through and through. You said that I'm an army officer and a doctor. I only did 5 years in the army. 5 years, after which I left, and then I did 20 years with the Oil and Natural Gas Commission. But every single day that I spent in the army is every single day I prize so much. I really place all the people I worked with, I place them on a pedestal and look up to them. Absolutely. And I feel that somebody who has not worked in the army, they have missed an experience of a lifetime. अभी आजकल बहुत मेंशन हो रहा अग्निपथ अग्निवीर की वो 5 साल में छोड़ देंगे. The talk of gratuity नहीं मिली. हमारे टाइम पे तो after 5 years I got gratuity of 1,000 per year. That was 5,000 rupees. But अब तो खैर बहुत बढ़ गई. But it was that experience which was to be cherished, and I talk of it even today. I wrote the amount you learn to be disciplined, you learn to work as member of a team. That is why you learn that every single person who you work with is a member of your team and you're working for the country. और आप कुछ सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं तो आप पूछिए. It's up to you. I thought I've given you a little bit of everything that we did.
Ma'am, one thing I would just like to know that we heard from General Saab about Major Walia, Sudhir Walia, but you saw him much more as a family member. Sir was in an official position, obviously, and obviously Major Walia was not so much open to Sir also. So, will
Yeah,
you
I
share?
suppose all the ADCs, they were a little freer with me, but Sudhir was slightly more sober, no more mature than the other ADCs, and the ADCs also looked up at him with great regard. उसको देख के वो बाकी लोगों ने भी उर्दू सीखना शुरू किया. They sort of followed him as an idol. He was a great boy. And although now, when just a few days ago, when I went to Nagaland, Manipur, I met one of our ADCs. So I was talking to him, Ashish Ranjan, and I said, मैंने बोला किसी को कि सुधीर बड़ा serious था. So he laughed. He said, मैम इतने serious नहीं था, आपके सामने serious था. हाँ, but with me, I suppose they were franker. They only and he was a security ADC, so his responsibility was much more. So he accompanied the general wherever. And जब वो जाने लगा, when he volunteered to go back to the unit, and we had a small breakfast in our house, army house. सभी ADCs हम बैठे थे. So I told him, I said, सुधीर, तुम जा रहे हो, मैंने तो सोचा कि तुम्हारी शादी करवाएंगे हम. तो he said, मैम मेरी बहुत जिम्मेवारियां हैं. He had a younger brother who was disabled, and he had a younger sister who had not yet got married. So he told me, he says, मैम अभी मेरे पास बहुत जिम्मेवारियां हैं, वो पूरी हो जाएंगी तो. And then of course he accompanied us on a trip to Singapore, when we went to Vietnam, Malaysia. So when you're traveling together, you chit chat more, and very fond of his mother. You'll be surprised that when after his demise, when we walked to his house, and that time it was a much smaller house in the mountainous area like Palampur, and we took a kacha track and we walked up to his house. And as I entered the house, I was amazed, and I looked around कि हमारी जनरल की और मेरी इतनी बड़ी बड़ी पिक्चर्स वो दीवार पर लगी हुई थी. And Sudhir's mother said कि सुधीर कहता था कि अब जनरल साहब ना पंचकुला में रहना चाह रहे हैं, तो हम भी वहीं रहेंगे. हम भी वहीं रहेंगे. He was an affectionate boy, and when we had, say, a Lodi function and all in the house with the men, so he used to dance and sing, but not itni conversation nahi hoti hai. Maybe because he was a security ADC, कम बात होती थी. ये दूसरे दो से ज्यादा होती थी, मनीष जोशी, आशीष रंजन, और मेरे साथ चल भी पड़ते थे किसी ना किसी काम के लिए. But I mean, he was such a good boy. I mean, it was really shattered when we learned about his demise. It was like, as Beth always says, a personal loss for us, like a member of the family.
Ma'am, one more thing I just want to, convey to our team members through you that General Sir missed your daughter's marriage also at that time.
Yeah, that was much earlier. That was in the year 98, because in 98 March में वो पोखरण के tests हुए थे. India became a nuclear test. So the other countries, US, UK, they had put a ban on India, and with that, we were proposed to go to UK first, and then from there, we were to go on a official visit, and then we were to go to USA to attend our daughter's wedding. But because of that, that ban which had been imposed on India by these countries, so the general couldn't go. So I went alone. It was a small registered wedding with just some very close family friends over there. And so we attended. Of course, it was very traumatic for the general not to be there on that day. And he rang up about twice or thrice and couldn't speak. His voice would get choked. But then that is what army is. I don't remember many birthdays or anniversaries or child's first birthday or that we spent together, because he spent years and years in field area. He spent years. He used to go to field area, come to Delhi, go to field, and those were field areas not like today. Those days one could not even visit for a single day. और कोई कम्युनिकेशन नहीं होता. There were no telephone calls, there were no WhatsApp calls, there were no video calls. एक चिट्ठी लिखते थे तो वो चिट्ठी used to take 23 to 24 days to reach him. So when he wrote back and I got a reply to something that I asked, तो 1.5 महीना निकल जाता था, 1.5 months. So there was no communication. So we used to write to each other every single day. I wrote every single day because I felt that he, as a father, must not miss out on a single day of the children's growing up. Up to things are much different. Today, at the drop of a hat, the video call हो जाती है, बात हो जाती. पहले तो ऐसा नहीं था. I was posted as a captain in Jabalpur. He was in Mizoram. He was in Nagaland. He was ऐसे ही रहे, जहाँ जहाँ रहे. कश्मीर में भी जब रहे, as a GOC, I couldn't go and visit him. So those days were tougher. So I think I started staying with him for the first time, and the command assignment was when he was a corps commander as a lieutenant general in Jalandhar. उससे पहले तो by and large I brought up the children, school going, everything, by work, everything.
Adrija, do we have any question from Facebook? You are muted. You are muted.
No, but actually, some Kargil War heroes are also watching. Major Rakesh Sharma sir actually expressed his gratitude to ma'am and said that what a gentle and humble lady she is. So everyone is actually loving listening to you, ma'am.
Yeah, I saw one comment about somebody said he had heard me at IRMA. We had gone last month to Institute of Rural Management in Gujarat. And there, after the general spoke, then I also spoke for some time.
She is an officer's wife, and she is a very active member of Desh also, ma'am.
Yes, Smruti.
Well, my compliments to all of you. I whatever I hear and read about both all of you and your team, I think you are doing a tremendous job. And hats off to you.
Thank you so
And
much.
for always being so actively involved.
Ma'am,
I wish
actually, you also...
more people would take interest in.
Yes. You also saw, ma'am, that how heartwarming letters you had received. So whenever we do 1%, we get back 100% from them. So it actually motivates us to do more. So
the card you sent to the general, with that Rakhi, I put it on both last year's card and this year's card. I put it on Facebook. So I got a lot of replies.
yes, and sir said that sir is quite elder to us for Rakhi, but we said actually he is our protector. So Raksha jo karte hai, Raksha Bandhan unke liye.
Or kuch. Thank you so much. I enjoyed speaking with you. Let me tell you, I'm not used to these sort of things on the live audiences. I've been speaking generally our own army audiences, but bahar bhi bolti rahi hu. I must tell you, even when we went to New York and Washington after this war, people wanted to speak, people wanted to donate money, and people had all heard about all that was happening, because it was really the first time it was a televised war. So people got to know a lot more. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for listening to me so patiently. And I hope other people who heard also got...
No, ma'am. Actually, for last 2 years, we are listening to soldiers, from General Sir to Javans, we are listening their experience, but it is you who are telling us actually about the army behind the army and the function of AWWA during the war, and how you felt to receiving the wounded soldiers, and how much it was a
It was
heartbreaking.
heartbreaking, but it had just had to be done. It had to be done
Absolutely,
because the soldiers, when they arrived, they had nobody around them. You know, even earlier we had our teams of ladies who were going to the hospital to see the terminally ill pediatric children, to see because I felt that you have need to reach out. कि जो mother है who's sitting there in the hospital for days watching her child die day by day, तो उसको जाके मिलने का जरूरत होती थी. So we, as I said, we did not start all this in one day when the war was declared. We were doing this earlier, and we had our ladies going to the hospital. We had our ladies going to the forward, the field area family quarters, and so once the thing is in action, then you can expedite everything.
and ma'am, surely the serving officer's wife or serving officers who are listening to our program, they will, I mean, they will have a path to do their own work, because they are now the members of our, so
I
they
I
will get
feel you
an idea from you.
caring and sharing. Our motto is caring and
Absolutely, ma'am.
sharing. And every single lady who is married to an army officer is a member of AWWA. And she doesn't only have to be a recipient; she has to give. You have to
Absolutely.
give a part of yourself. And though the problems now, I keep hearing that a lot of ladies are working, lot of ladies are working. वो कहते हैं हमारे पास time नहीं. I said, let me tell you that during war, the maximum help I got were from people, ladies who were working people, because they know how to manage their time efficiently. You know, जो बिल्कुल घर में बैठी ना उसको बोलो कि आज इसके लिए मीटिंग के लिए आ जाओ, नहीं आज तो मैंने हॉस्पिटल जाना था या आज मेरे को उधर जाना है, but somebody who's keen to do it will find the time, will manage your time.
Absolutely, ma'am. So it's a real honor, ma'am, to have you with us on this day when our soldiers secured the victory and glory for the nation and bear all the pain and all the sorrows for them. And we really wish to pay our tribute to all the soldiers, all the family members, all the near and dear ones of each and every soldiers today, through you and with you on this Vijay Divas. So,
Thank you.
as General Sir once told in our program, that Vijay Divas, we need to observe these days to remember those soldiers and to remember those
Pay
days
our
of war.
homage to those who've given up their lives for the nation.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, we are conveying our humble tribute to all the soldiers, and we are now at the concluding part of this session and the Kargil series of Vartalap of this year also.
Yeah.
So, wish you all a healthy and happy life ahead. And as ma'am said, we should share and care. There should be a personal touch, whatever we are doing.
I do believe that you cannot order anyone to do something. You have to take
Yes,
your
ma'am.
team with you. I always say, show the way. Do not say, so and so will do this, do that. You have to do it with them. Then they do it willingly. I think it's important to lead from the front. Soldiers ko bhi hum kehte lead from the front. Even for us, we should lead from the front. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was
Thank
a
you, ma'am.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.